The story of the little mole who knew it was none of his business. Werner Holsworth and Wolf Earlbrunch. German names, those ones. None of his business. Does business mean toilet business? Oh, what's on his head? Let's find out. One day, the little mole poked his head out from underground to see whether the sun already had risen. Then it happened. Ooh, what's coming down on his head? Eek. It looked like a sausage, and the worst thing was that it landed right on his head. "How mean!" cried the mole. "Who has done this on my head?" But he was so short-sighted that he couldn't see anyone around. "Did you do this on my head?" he asked the dove who was flying past. "Me, no. How could I? I do it like this," she answered. And splish, splish, a moist, wet blob landed right next to Little Mole's right leg and splashed it with lots of white poo. That doesn't match the poo on his head. "Did you this do my head?" he asked the horse who was grazing in the pasture. I think the horse is laughing because he's got poo on his head. "Me, no. How could I do it like this?" And a flump, plump, 5 big, fat, horsey apples plopped down within a hair's breadth of the mole. He was very impressed. His poo was nearly as big as the mole. "Did you do this to my head?" he asked the hare. He's a bit cranky now. The hare got a fright, dropped his carrot. "Me? No, how could I? I'd do it like this," answered the hare. And rat-a-tat-tat, 15 little round beans shot past the mole's ears, and he saved himself with a daring leap. Plop, 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 plop. Doesn't look like poo on his head, does it? "Did you do this on my head?" he asked the goat, who had been dreaming a little. Says the goat. "Me? No, how could I? I do it like this," she replied. And plippity-plop, a pile of toffee-coloured little balls tumbled on the grass. The little mole found them almost appealing. "Nah, it wasn't me," she said. "Did you do this on my head?" he asked the cow, who was chewing his cud. "Me? No. How could I? I do it like this." Oh, kaplosh! A big brownish green pancake flopped into the grass just next to Mole. Whew. He was very relieved that it hadn't been the cow who had done some business on his head. "Did you do this on my head?" he asked the pig. "Me? No, how could I? I do it like this," replied the pig. And plop, splat, a little soft brownish pile fell on the grass, and the mole held his nose because it was stinky. "Did you do this on my..." he was going to ask again, But as he came closer, he saw only 2 big, fat, black flies, and they were eating. At last, someone who will be able to help me, thought the mole. Who did this on my head? He asked excitedly. Bzzz. Keep nice and still, buzzed the flies. There was a short pause, and then it was clear to us that it was a dog. Oh! Finally, Mole knew who had done business on his head, and he's marching all the way to Basil, the butcher's dog, who's fast asleep in his kennel. Quick as a flash, he climbed onto Basil's kennel, and pling, a tiny little black sausage landed right on top of the dog's head. Satisfied at last, the little mole disappeared happily back down into his hole. Oh, what a lot of business that was. One more